Chapter 7, Uncertainty. So, negotiations never have all the information, creates challenge and opportunities. So negotiations, they never have all the information, but rarely is someone 100% sure about what their own interests are and goals are, not to mention the interests and goals of the other side. When it creates challenge and opportunity, uncertainty surrounding a negotiation means that information is crucial, and negotiators who have more information increase their ability to influence the others, as well as analyze how well or how poorly the negotiation process is proceeding or is going. It also means that negotiators can benefit from another party's need to seek some information by trying to bias their perceptions of thoughts or processes. Uncertainty in negotiation. So many people dislike negotiation. So whether you like it or not, uncertainty affects your behavior and your perceptions in significant ways. So in a manner of speaking, you're at the mercy of uncertainty unless you can learn how to understand it and manage it and hopefully turn it to your advantage. Uncertainty is everywhere. Uncertainty is everywhere. Most of what matters in negotiations is unknown to the parties before they begin the discussion. So parties that are left to guess about what others may be thinking. This is important because in negotiations, what other parties think and feel determines which behaviors or actions on your part are going to be effective and which ones are not going to be effective. Planning reduces uncertainty. Listen, prior preparation prevents poor performance. Everybody knows that. So the more you plan and the better prepared you are, the less uncertainty that you will have or encounter by the other. Because doing that planning, you're planning for also your side, but you're also planning for the other side as well. Knowledge and uncertainty reduces but does not eliminate. So logic, preparation and getting knowledge is good to have. It's going to make you better prepared and stuff. It can reduce, uncertainty, but it can't eliminate it. Because there's just no way to know everything, every possibility before you negotiate with something. Mental mode of real world. So when you see the mental mode of real world, this is a cognitive representation about how something works in the real world. So how does it work? Not how you think or how you feel, but how does it work in the real world? Uncertainty, anxiety, and sense making. So effects on perception and behavior. So when we look at this, effects on uncertainty and behavior, effects on perception and behavior. This is let's see how the best way to describe it is understanding how uncertainty can affect your perception and your behavior. Behavior process ensures you can use it to your advantage and not have it exploited against you. Your anxiety. Negotiators often worry about when they don't know what is going on or what to expect. As a consequence, they feel threatened or anxious, which is important because that creates a serious problem in negotiations. For instance, it compares your cognitive ability, your creativity. All these things are hindered when you have anxiety. So you're not able to think at your best. Sense making is like having the fundamental need to make sense of their surroundings. A process, some researchers refer to it as appropriately a sense-making thing. But it's basically, does stuff make sense to you? I take it, does it make common sense to you? So seek to find the stuff that actually makes sense to you. And that's actually a legitimate step in the negotiation process. Stereotypes are powerful. So stereotypes are powerful, because they can help make individuals a sense of situations by placing images, people into particular familiar categories. Stereotyping is an ambition. When you look at traits, values, and motives and things along those lines, I often tell people you don't need to learn people. You need to learn personalities and stereotypes because all people will fall into those. So if we look here at uncertainty, dealing with uncertainty. So we see step one, emotion, 2, information search, 3, action. See negotiators' thoughts. So if you look up here, emotion, you see anxiety, sense making, behavior, And the negotiator's thoughts: how worried should I be? Is this person trustworthy? Which tactic should I use? So for emotion, it's like, how worried should I be? For information search, is how trustworthy is this person? And the action is, which tactic should I use? So you can see when you deal with uncertainty, you can have the anxiety. It can go to sense making, go to behavior, but it'll loop back as you actually start thinking about the other things, about the questions, the negotiator thoughts. System symmetry. So when we think about that, state of vulnerability. So, state of vulnerability. Let's see, people that are, they get exposed and, have a need for a framework, with which, to operate. If you provide them with a framework, you can extract more value in effect, something for information. So one side has more information. So when one side has, to that degree that, you may have information and are willing to share it or use it in a strategic way, you can shape or the perceptions and judgments of the other party, influencing them in negotiation, and let them see that, you're kind of dealing in a good faith manner. Impressibility applies in the negotiation. So impressibility, we think of this, I'll give you some examples. Like children are seen as impressionable, because they lack information about the world and they are constantly striving to make sense of it. So being able, willing to provide information or, to use the information that you have that they don't, is to provide context for someone, it might help them, who might help them, in an unfamiliar situation. Your basis for signaling the theory, So, if you think of this as the basis for signaling theory, from what I recall, this is a study, study of behavior when an information symmetry exists, centered around how one side communicates or signals to the other side, so you have a piece of information they have or they do not have. And, how the communication is received, it determines, whether the signals are influential and the signal is influential in getting the provider to add value. Tolerance for ambiguity. So individual susceptibility to uncertainty. So you have your tolerance for ambiguity. So it's like a lot of times you can refer to as, do they have the stomach for it? So individual, when you're thinking that tolerance ambiguity represents how comfortable or uncomfortable an individual will be with uncertain situations. So you have individual susceptibility, uncertainty. So, and you have situations that's challenging and interesting. So situations challenging and interesting, individuals who are more tolerant of ambiguity are more, more comfortable and calm in situations, in uncertainty. They will probably be more resistant to some kind of tactics described by others, depending upon what they may be. Affects potential to be influenced. So affects potential to be influenced. This is when the anxiety is inherent in certain situations and it drives the search of information. If someone doesn't feel that, that anxiety, even when faced with, with the exact same situation, they may not feel the similar need for sense making and may not be paralyzed or indecisive in certain situations. So very, very tolerance for ambiguity, it varies across cultures. So depending upon who you are and the things that make you your culture, what it may be and stuff, your tolerance for ambiguity may be different. And a lot of times this is going to be due to personal culture. It could be ethnic, race, all types of things, country or your origin, that can come into play. So that can affect how someone looks at it. And compromise, today, almost, particularly if you look at politics, compromise is almost viewed as something that doesn't exist and it's like a bad thing. In reality, that's what everybody should be doing. Compromise is avoid conflict because everybody can find some common ground somewhere. If you're seeking that, if you're seeking to actually fight, you won't. And the only way to move forward in process, the best ways to move forward in process is to find compromise. Sometimes finding compromise will help you on some more harder, the harder, difficult things that you're trying to talk about and discuss. It'll help you settle some of those. So expert power, negotiations, hunt for information. So negotiations, hunt for information. To the degree that you have knowledge or your expertise and that the other party sees it as valid, it will increase your ability to be influential in a negotiation. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. Is the extent to which your individuals have knowledge or expertise that allows them to influence people. And variable, malleable, and giving. So when you think in terms of variable, malleable, and giving, it's your ability to influence someone with your expertise is based on their willingness to believe your expertise. So not only do you need to be an expert, you need to show it, you can use it, and it becomes power, but other people need to also perceive you as that. Expert power can be changed. It can be changed if if someone attends a particular type of training. It say that he or she may become more influential at work as a result. Alternatively, you think of a situation can change suddenly, making the information or expertise that a particular person has more or less valuable. Expertise does not guarantee power. No, expertise does not guarantee power because some people have the knowledge and they have the expertise, but they don't have the savvy to actually execute on it. So it does not guarantee the power. It depends on perception. Perception is everything, since you only can influence another party if they truly believe that you have the power. It's some people you can see it, you can feel it, and some people you can learn that they have the power. But ultimately, somebody has to have the power. They have to be the engine that drives the train. Doing research, hunt for unbiased information. So by doing this, it means you are on a hunt for unbiased information, which is information based on data. You're looking for stuff that makes sense. A lot of times I like to refer to it as the facts and figures. For one of the things, it reduces the amount of uncertainty. Because now you're not giving opinion-based stuff. You're actually give you example. 2 and 2 is 4. You can't argue that it's not. You can, but that's a fact. Problem of ubiquitous technology. Ubiquitous technology. So when we look at ubiquitous technology, this is getting unfiltered and unbiased information that is typically closer to the truth. It allows one to decide for him or herself what information means rather than having this being decided for you. So you're getting this information, it's very important to, it needs to be unfiltered and unbiased. And when you think of you need awareness of biases, know your biases. Need awareness of biases, know your biases. By doing that, it will keep you from making mistakes and falling short in certain areas. Negotiation tactics. So you got information, pros, cons, and suggestions for use. So you have the internet. You have a large amount of information, skilled at surfing, can unearth an amazing number of things. Pros, cons. Can be very time consuming, and for certain types of research, there is no variability. Suggestions. Good place to get an idea of what is out there. Can tell you what questions you should delve deep into. So I won't read through all of these, but you can see how you can use these different things. Pause it right here and read through those. How you can use the internet, your network, and other parties for sources of negotiation tactics. I want to do like the internet because it does help with particularly getting ideas. Database arguments. So when you look at database arguments, more influential than opinion. Arguments based on data. So when you have database arguments, again, it's going back to my analogy, or 2 and 2 is 4. When you're given that, these things carry more weight. For instance, if you're giving facts and figures and hypotheses and using other research to form an opinion. Arguments based on that data. So now when you're trying to make arguments, you're using it based upon something that actually is not just your opinion. It is based upon some previous data and facts, and you probably got it from multiple sources. You bring it together, and now you have to package it and present an argument that's compelling. And this is a nice little cartoon. Mom, she called me a stinky booger face. Well, was was a claim evidence-based. So realistically, he may be getting mad, but if he asks his stinky boogie face, he may not like it, but it may be a fact, or it may not be. And it's a little joke right here, but realistically, it makes all the sense in the world. Planning concessions. So think through your concessions carefully. One of the many things you can signal in a negotiation is how far you're willing or not to go for a deal. So think through that really. Smaller and fewer concessions benefit. Yes, negotiations make a smaller and fewer concessions can lead to more as compared to those who make bigger concessions, and we also make concessions more frequent. So it's kind of like, I kind of look at like building up some good credit or some goodwill towards something. Way to reduce negotiation tension. I would say, our willingness to work together. Concessions in a negotiation, also, it communicates information to the other party, and can be quite influential, especially when the negotiations focus around one or two issues. Poorly planned concessions. So when you have poorly planned concessions, this is where a negotiator makes all the concessions in the same value and makes them unilateral concessions, which are like multiple concessions in a row without concession from the other side. You're basically losing. That's what you're doing, because you're giving up too much. Now it's hard to negotiate from a position of weakness, and if you put yourself in a position of weakness, that's going to be hard to overcome. So here's something that I would like to say. This is a planning concession. I like to think this. Let's just say this is a car negotiation between our seller and a buyer. So we see right there, an open offer. The buyer offers $17,500. The seller counters at $20,000. The buyer comes back $18,000. So the counter comes back at $19,500. The buyer comes back at $18,300. The counter offer is $19,000. The fourth offer is $18,400. Buyer at $100 concession accepted offer. So you see, this is, if you've ever purchased a car before, a large ticket item or a home or something, this is something that you would have done. I've done this on numerous occasions, particularly when it comes to mind when I've purchased cars, because I've done that more frequent than purchased houses. Opening offers in setting an anchor. So when you think of people timid about starting negotiations. So they don't want to bring up the conflict, or even, if they do, they don't want to be the first to talk about something. This puts you kind of at a serious disadvantage because it lets others frame the problem in a way that benefits them. So if you look, good negotiator offers to anchor. So a good negotiator, he's going to be different. A good negotiator makes the opening offer to the anchor of the negotiation, and before other people can do it. So they're trying to take the lead on it. Equated with price tags. So equated with price tags. So by reducing uncertainty, for a consumer, and giving the consumer time to decide whether he or she would like to pay a price. The price tag is thus the opening and the final offer, and like all negotiations every day. I mean, really, in a negotiation where the other side is not sure what to pay or what the issues may be, in negotiation, the opening offer, fills in those gaps, and it goes a long way to determine the form of the final deal. So using expertise conveys a sense of power. So expert power works more effectively when there is an uncertainty, and also it works in the eye of the person without the expertise. They see someone who seemingly has a great deal of knowledge, which this person believes. Titles, signals, expertise. So when you look at a researcher, you look at someone has a PhD, someone that has an MBA, someone is a medical doctor, someone is a certified fraud investigator. These signal expertise, and a lot of times people get them in profession, not only through universities of higher education, but also through professional organizations. Intricate knowledge of a situation. So this is by framing the cost of a product as a gain. The expert can be very influential to a naive customer who might concede, for paying for it. The customer knows what what it is, and it knows what it's worth. Then that lowers the customer's uncertainty, and now the customer is not really at the whim of the expert. And give you an example, that could be someone that you're buying. Let's say you're buying your first car, and you're dealing with a very experienced salesperson. That could be exactly the situation. Framing as gains. So risk-seeking versus adverse manners. Risk-seeking versus adverse manners. Like, what is that? Okay, this is, individuals, I would say this is where individuals tend to respond in a risk-seeking manner. When a problem is framed in terms of, of a possible gain, and in a risk-averse manner, when a problem is framed in terms of a possible loss. So, prospect theory in job negotiation. So we think about this, functionally, this is the same offer, but it will, be much easier for a potential employee to accept this salary when the frame as a gain versus frame as a loss. The gain makes them feel better about the offer and and the situation. For instance, if you if you look at how, let's say, for instance, you're asked for a salary and you wanted $100,000. Well, I offer you a salary of $90,000, but I also give you opportunity for performance bonuses that could actually help you make $105,000. The other side must have uncertainty. So, this is fair negotiation and what to expect, of a certain issue, and how it can be framed this way. Helping them make sense of the concession you are giving and doing it in such a way which benefits you. So I'm helping you understand. They don't know, so I'm helping you understand to alleviate your uncertainty, so we can continue negotiating in good faith. Shutting down negotiation ability. So this is a tactic like, telling a potential job applicant that we provide a standard package of benefits to new employees or salaries for your new job category, and they're not negotiable and can be incredibly effective, if they believe it. So I personally have seen that happens a lot of times. Well, this is not negotiable. This is what it is. It is what it is. Defense against influence by others. So having a very accurate assessment of the other party's costs and the strong level of their confidence in the assessment, which would make it harder for the other party to influence you with tactics. So you're not going to fall for just any old thing. Arguments most effective with logic. So again, when you're making your arguments, using logic, and I like to say common sense things and logic and stuff that's a given. For instance, the sky is blue. The grass is green, water's wet. Those are facts and stuff. This is logic and stuff. So that's something we can't debate. Information search involves effort. So, so when we think about this, while much information, it's out there and it's readily available today. There is always going to be instances where we find specific and relevant objective information, which may be quite time consuming or difficult, or it could even involve having to negotiate for the information. You never can tell because it's coming from all different kind of places. Possible repeated interactions. So we look at this. Tactics can be perceived. Tactics can be, they can be perceived, as manipulative or dishonest, and they can be a real perception of taking advantage if someone is benefiting from the lack of their knowledge or their information of the other party. So deliberately using this unfamiliarity with the situation for benefit. It's possible. Some people do it. I just wouldn't feel comfortable doing things that way. I just think it will come back to get you in the long run. Future agreements may be affected. So if you do, and this is exactly what I'm talking about, if you do that, then coming down future agreements, now you probably built up a reputation or air of mistrust by somebody, and they may not trust you, want to deal with you because of what you did last time. So tactics are normative in negotiation. So when we think of tactics, this is normal. People do this, and each side's going to have things that they will do. That's just and you expect this. It's like it's gamesmanship. So you're going to have stuff that you'll do. They have things that they do, and that's just how it's played. Information symmetry between the parties. So when you think of the information symmetry between the parties, like one party has more information than the other, and the information symmetry cannot be resolved by the party with the information disadvantage. Bottom line is that is what it is. Business and trade depend on profit. So when you look at business and trade on that, this is it is definitely difficult, and it's a fuzzy issue, precisely because much of the business and trade is predicted upon someone being able to leverage better information into a profit. So it could be argued that the entire principle of the negotiation that the profit underlies the market, and whatever comes out of this negotiation is going to determine, how this works and how the market's going, how we're going to make money. Unreservable conundrum. So this is let's see, this is part of the reason the negotiation is in order to get a positive and favorable outcome for ourselves. So in doing our homework and planning and gathering information, it's precisely it's in order for us to try to get a positive and favorable outcome for ourselves in negotiation context. On the other hand, you have both buyers and sellers value fairness, and so such you should perhaps be limits on how much we are willing to try to take advantage of the information asymmetry and uncertainty. Explicit right and wrong. Bottom line is this: when you're dealing with the negotiation, there's things that it's just some things that are just right, and it comes down to doing it, and some things are just wrong. And if somebody's in the negotiation, you got to know this. That's fundamental. If not, there's a high probability you're going to do something that's either going to be unethical, wrong, incorrect, possibly, and just leave a bad taste in people's mouth. That concludes this chapter.